Welcome. It's still retrospect right here on Quest Today. And the big story it is. And like I said, retrospect, we're looking at some lovely additions we did in the year of 2023. And not just looking at them, but also taking a critical look at some of the issues that was raised, or rather were raised during the period on the review. And 2023 it is. My name is Michael Gobardian. Now, on this edition of Retrospect, we'll be looking at an edition we did on the 18th day of October, and we're talking about Nigerians' growing inflation and conditional cash transfer. And we did this very edition, or rather had this edition with no other person but Prince Cogent, where I will just let you enjoy it, and we'll come back after it. The National Bureau of Statistics says Nigerian headline inflation rate increased to 26.72% in September of 2023. The NBS disclosed this in its Consumer Price Index and Inflation Report for September released in Abuja on Monday. According to the report, the figure, which is 0.92% points higher compared to the 25.80% recorded in August of 2023. It said on a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate in September was 5.94% higher than the rate recorded in September of 2022 at 20.77%. Food continues to be Nigeria's biggest driver of inflation, according to the report. The food inflation rate for September 2023 was 30.64% on a year-on-year basis, which was 7.30% points higher compared to the rate also recorded in September of 2022. Nigeria inflation remains on a continuous uptrend despite several monetary measures by the Central Bank of Nigeria to tame the rising inflation rate, which has made many Nigerians slide into the vulnerable bracket and in dire need of help, especially after the removal of fuel subsidy, which many blame for it. In response to that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday, Tuesday, commenced the distribution of 25,000 naira per month cash transfer to 15 million households. Speaking yesterday, which is also the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, who represented Mr. President, said the federal government is partnering with the World Bank Group and other development partners to implement the conditional cash transfer for businesses and grants and other forms of support for the most vulnerable household via the National Society Safety Net Expansion Program. But the big question on the big story for today, will this help to deal with the hunger in the land? And how transparent will the process be to really get to the most vulnerable? And what should government do in the long term to reduce food inflation, which is projected to even go higher in the coming months? Well, this and more is what this edition of The Big Story is all about. As we're talking about the growing inflation, especially as it concerns food, and the conditional cash transfer. That's what we're having as a major discourse today on The Big Story. We're looking at the growing inflation food or rate that seems to be pushing the inflation, and not only looking at that, but the conditional cash transfer, which the federal government feels will help to reduce all of that. But anyway, we're not reducing the discussion, but also increasing it in its space. Hence, we have our guest, he's a public analyst, also an economist, and we're talking of no other person but Prince Cogent. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nigerians. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it has been a while. I know how really busy you are, especially as you transverse the country in dealing with the issues that seems to concern equity and justice. But anyway, I'm happy we're also bringing you back here. And like I said, yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made true his promise of actually giving out that cash transfer, as he said, to 50 million households. But I'll plead with you to hold that first. We'll talk about that. But let's first look at that report that was released a day before yesterday. We're talking about the inflation for September, which is put at 26.72%, which was generally caused by food inflation, which is put at 30.94% year on year. But my question my question is, because I'm really concerned, are we going to see a further increase in food inflation rate in the coming month? Because just like we did last month, I had my guest here, and he also projected that definitely when the MBS release their statistics, food inflation will definitely increase. But to be honest, I know he's quite shocked that it increased to such a high rate. He never knew it would be that high, but funny enough it is. So my question is, do you feel we're even the coming month going to have a further increase in food inflation, and which many fear would definitely be?
Most times we do certain things in this country, and you wonder whether the leadership learns from history. The history of any nation is extremely important. But if you watch what our leaders do in Nigeria, you wonder whether they are taking note of what has been happening. Because if you look at what's definitely going on, when I read about this cash transfer yesterday, I was laughing to myself and wondering, how can we be doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? It was Albert Einstein that said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and at the same time, you are expecting different results. That's exactly what we are doing. You see, we are turning around in the same point, and we think turning around in that same point will
give us a different outcome.
Yes, will project us forward, but it's not. So basically,
let's project on the food inflation. Do you foresee it going higher in the next release forecast and in the next coming month? Because already we're in October. November, December, do you see that also increasing?
It will, because for the past 9 months now, it has been on the increase.
Of course.
For 9 months now,
yes.
it has been on the increase. And there are certain fundamentals that must be in place for us to shift in a different direction.
Okay.
And if you look at what is going on now, those fundamentals are not there.
Okay.
The previous administration, what he has shown is that it managed badly, extremely badly, the economy. And most of us at that point, some people were saying something is wrong, but we didn't know it was as bad as it is. So this present government came in, they didn't really understand what is going on. But they just, on the spur of the moment, came out with certain policies without thinking them through.
Yeah.
So right now, we've got ourselves into a serious mess. Let me use that word, although it's not a comfortable word to use.
Yeah. We
are here now, so what do we do? But I seem to see as if the government is looking confused. They are looking confused because I really can't see any formulated, formal direction in looking at the fundamentals. We are talking of food. We are talking of inflation.
Yeah.
Right? I was coming right here. I use public transport, and in the vehicle, so women they were talking about the price of rice. You know, in 2015 when the President Muhammadu Buhari government came in.
Yeah.
He focused on local production of rice, and honestly, our own rice became very nice. We can buy it, we can be proud of it, but it's expensive. It's expensive. So they were talking, I said, the bag of Nigerian rice has risen to 65,000.
Nigerian rice?
Yes. As at now, has risen to, as at a month, 2 months ago, it was 40-something thousand, 40,000, 39,000, 41,000. But now, it has gone to about 63, 64,000. So, it is expected. It's expected. Because our production capacity is weak. Our infrastructural capacity.
That would naturally be my next question. And the reason I will ask this, because if you look at it, now, one of the basic culprits for the increase in food inflation was hinged on the removal of fuel subsidy. Transportation was a very clear indicator of why we had this food inflation since we started from May, June, July, August to September. But the price of petrol have been relatively stable in the last 3 months. And yet, the food inflation seems to be increasing. So I really want to understand, what are those fundamentals? What are those things that seems to be driving it other than the issue of transportation? Because that is now totally out of it.
Now, if you look at it, food basically is produced in the north in this country.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the reality.
Fundamental.
And that's what it is. That's how it is. And if you also look at it, for the past years, about 4-3, not more than almost 8 years now, food production has not been as it used to be because of security challenges in the north. That's one of the basic problems.
Okay.
Now, the logistics of conveying this food from the north to the south is also a challenge. Now, look at it. Most of the trucks that carry this food from the north, they are powered by diesel.
Okay.
And now, that's why I'm saying it's like the government is confused. When the Tinubu administration came into power, one of the things they did was to add VAT. Diesel at that point was people were happy. Diesel was about 600 naira per liter, but they placed VAT on diesel, 7.5%, and immediately it skyrocketed from 600 to 1,000 naira
per liter.
Per liter. That's even the challenge with fuel, because the transporters, they are saying, look, we are moving fuel from one point to the other in Nigeria. Look, we can't cope. Forget about the price of fuel. What about the price of diesel? Moving from 600 naira to 1,000, we can't cope.
So putting that VAT on diesel was the basic indicator.
That's a basic indicator. I wonder why the government would do that at a time where the economy is out of control. You need to manage, at the point we are now, you find a way to manage the economy in such that you are bad. You must do something to make sure you remain there. Then you start doing other things to start moving in another direction. Not doing things that will make it worse. So that's why NSC, one of the negotiated points with NSC is to remove that VAT. The government has now agreed to remove that VAT on diesel for the next 6 months. We don't know whether let's watch and see what the effect will be. Then basically another fundamental is power. For since democracy, 1999,
the return.
Obasanjo government, Yaradua government, Jonathan government, President Muhammadu Buhari government. Well, President Tinubu has just started now, so we can't really say anything. They've grappled with the challenge of power, and none of them seems to have done anything tangible. I use that word tangible because all these years we've been struggling with about 4,000 megawatts of power
for 24 years.
24 years. We seem not to, they will come with lofty ideas and said in so and so years we'll get to 50,000 megawatts, but we've not moved an inch. So you ask yourself, what is the problem? How come we are not able? And because if you can't, the reason why people are scared about the increase in the price of diesel, because there is our power infrastructure is not working. The alternative power is diesel for all our industry, for all the production. So that's one of the basics. So when this government came in, I thought they were going to declare like an emergency on power. But if you watch the government policy, nothing is being said about power. One of the rumors that gladdened my heart at that point was when it was rumored that Malam El-Rufai was going to come in and become the Minister of Power. El-Rufai, you love him or hate him, he has something going for him. He makes things happen.
When he puts his mind to it.
Yes. But somehow, we don't know what happened with the politics of APC and all that. He wasn't appointed. But right now, power is not on the front burner. And if power is not on the front burner, every other thing we are doing, we are wasting our time. You must get your power equation correct. Your power infrastructure, we must be doing good enough. When President Muhammadu Buhari was leaving power, he signed a fundamental amendment to the Constitution. And that fundamental amendment was when states we are now giving the consent to produce, transmit, and distribute power. Yeah. You see that none of the states is even talking about that now. You know, none of the states. I've not seen any state mention anything about it. I've not seen anybody having plans. You don't need to start it today, but you need to start talking about it, having a conversation, having a narrative, and about all of that. Then, because when you start doing that, it simply means you are thinking about it. So that in 2-3 years,
directional policy.
Yes, but nobody's talking about it, and that's the challenge. If we don't get our power right, we are going nowhere. We are talking of rice jumping up. People seem to think that, okay, you just plant rice, you bring it, you peel it. No. The rice is processed.
It's milled.
It's milled. That process is the production. It's powered by what? Power. Electricity. All the plants processing rice in Kano in the north, what are they using? They are using diesel to power their system. So why do you think people are saying, people wonder, say, how come we are producing rice and it's more expensive than
it must be more expensive than the foreign one.
Than foreign. What was the problem? That's where the problem is. So until the government can sit down and what they are doing is, that's why I said, I feel strongly they are confused.
You don't feel it's more like cosmetics?
No, it's not. Because I've not really seen, because the policy, today they will go back. Recently they announced that they've removed, you know, there was a ban. Because
on 43 items.
On 43 items. Because
rice is one of them, so we'll be getting more.
Yes. Because if you look at it, despite the fact that the foreign rice, our local production, the price is not as we wanted it to be. Now we are grappling with foreign exchange. I think some months ago, Financial Times even reported that the Buhari government at the time, our foreign exchange was as low as 3-point-something billion. And we said, 3 point what was that? And one of our foreign exchange earner is crude oil.
Of course.
So and at a point, our crude oil was swapped. We produce crude oil. Instead of we don't even have access to the crude we sell, because we've sold the crude for the future. We've sold that crude for the future. We've swapped it. We've given it to somebody and said, go and process and give us back petrol. So at the end of the day, we ordinarily Nigerians, we thought, we get oil. We are producing crude oil. We didn't know that. We don't have anything.
Revenue coming for it.
There's no revenue, because they will bring down the fuel. So we are in a complete, we need something focused. And I've not seen it, although President Tinubu economic team, before they came now, they were touted as one of the best individuals. Wole Edon, Cardoso, the president, they said they are the best. But the direction they are moving, that's why I said maybe they are confused. They are overwhelmed with the challenge.
Don't you feel we've not given them enough time? Or you do not see, all your concern is a policy guideline, a policy direction.
That's why I said you don't. I don't really expect results because the time is short. But the policies you come out with, we show the direction you are thinking about. For me, if you are not focusing on power,
then what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Okay, what I'll do now is quickly ask you now. Let's look at it, because all we've been saying is we've been talking about how really, what really the problems are. But let's look at the impact, because this growing food inflation is really more of a concern. How would this growing food inflation impact on the lives of ordinary Nigerians? They're already grappling with the issue of increase in school fees, grappling with the issue of transportation, like you said. and many others. So how is it going to fully impact? Because like you said, the women were complaining bitterly of what the price will be. And even their fears, like you've also expressed, will definitely be maybe in December, if things do not go well, like you said, we might even be buying a bag for 70,000 naira.
Yes.
So what impact will this have on the lives of Nigerians? They're already being faced with so many challenges.
As it is now, you know, no matter how, as an individual, no matter how things get, there are challenges. You have to be optimistic. Because that may just be, you have to have hope. You know, because the way Nigeria is, if you don't have hope, you just kill yourself for nothing. And if you look at the government at the various levels, you can see clearly that they really don't understand what they need to do to get us out of where we are. So Nigerians, we have this resilient spirit, strong spirit of survival, the way it is. If you walk around, I live in Warri, you see that everybody is trying to do one thing or the other to survive. Right here also in Ughelli. So we have that resilient spirit. We don't
and don't you feel those in elected offices know that, hence their policies might not really be that understanding to how we feel? They will not always, no matter how we do it like this or like that, Nigerians are always resilient and they will always find a way out.
No, you know, you don't take people for granted. By 2020, we had the NSAS that almost threw this country out of balance. If you watch recently, when Labour called for strike, the government quickly rallied around to make sure it doesn't happen. Because we're at the point where we are like almost on the edge at this point. So you don't take people for granted and say, it doesn't matter. They will always know how to survive. Because of the challenges. I'm talking of the Nigerian spirit, our resilience and all that, yes. But you don't take people for granted. You see, recently something happened, and I tried to analyze it and look at it. The death of this musician. Mohbad. If you watch, Mohbad made some fundamental personal mistakes that led to his death. But if you see, it became a challenge. People were even protesting, and you ask yourself, why is this going on? You see that people are just looking for the opportunity to express that anger. So you don't take people for granted. The leaders, the leadership should not take people for granted. So that's by the way. But basically as it is, the impact is strong because the value of the money you have in your pocket, you have 1 million naira in your account, it doesn't have any value. If you start a business today with about, if you started a business a year ago with about 10 million, that business today is now worth about 5 million. So you see that your capital, your working capital, your revolving revenue is going down because everyday inflation
takes a chunk of it.
It takes almost every, so you'll be struggling, you'll be looking for the money to continue the business. And government, you are saying you want to transfer 25,000 naira to 15 million household, and you should look at how those businesses, these people with shops around, how do they survive? How can they survive? Those are the things you should look at.
And not the country.
Not put money.
But anyway, we'll come to that. I'll plead with you to hold on. We need to go on a break now. Okay. And then when we come back, we'll talk greatly on that because, like I said, we're looking at the inflation and a way out that the federal government seems to think, and that's the conditional cash transfer. But anyway, we're not transferring the issue, but rather putting it on hold. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion centered on the growing inflation and the conditional cash transfer that the federal government feels will be a better way to ease and in every way control the tension. Let's go on a break.